From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, as we wind down July and check into August, we are literally smack dab in the middle of summer. As usual, plenty to get into. The Minnesota Twins, clearly in the wild card chase. The AL Central in their sights, but can they run down your Guardians? I don't know.
Well, and they didn't do much at the trade deadline on Tuesday to make their fans happy or make people think, hey, they're going to make a big run. But let's not forget, they didn't do anything last year at the trade deadline, and they won their first playoff series or first playoff game since the early 2000s, and then they won a series, and then they actually went down to Houston and won a game. So whether they do something or did something at the trade deadline, I don't know if that's, whether or not they're going to make a run in the postseason. As you know, just get in, right? So let's just focus on getting into the postseason and then see what happens after that. I don't know. I think that they have enough to make at least a mini run. Can they win it all? Yeah, we'll see.
Well, they didn't make a splash, that's for sure. No tsunami here. It was more like dropping a pebble in the lake.
Well, they did do that.
A few ripples. But, the key is getting in, but there's a lot of competition in the American League. And at this point in time, if you concede the division to Cleveland, then you look around the AL and, who's going to challenge Minnesota for a wild card spot? Well, could be Boston. Could be the Yankees or the Orioles. Somebody's going to win the East. Right. Maybe Baltimore. Kansas City clearly is not going away. Houston may win the West again in the American League. Texas is probably going to get hot. And then the Seattle Mariners are a very good baseball team. So there could be an odd team or two left out of the October playoff picture.
And just that fact that you just named those, half dozen, 7, 8 teams in the American League, all those teams were looking for adding starting pitching, too. The Twins weren't the only team. I mean, the price to get a starting pitcher, like a Jack Flaherty that the Dodgers landed, of course
they
did.
Two prospects.
Of course they did. The number one guy that everybody wanted, and somehow the Dodgers managed. But, I mean, there were 14, 15 teams looking to add. So that's what's changed. If you remember deadline deals from years past, well, now that you have the double wild card, actually, you got 3 wild cards now, right? 3 wild cards, and then the lowest division winner getting into the post. So you've added all these extra teams. So now you have more teams that are still in the chase that say, wait a minute, if we add a guy here, then maybe we can make the postseason. Maybe we can make a postseason run. And then you got the big money teams like the Mets and the Yankees and the Dodgers, that are willing to spend no matter what the situation.
Well, and I think the poster teams, at least a year ago, for believing that if you just get in, things can happen, would be Arizona and Texas. They both punched wild card tickets, and they both wound up in the World Series. And then you take it back, in previous years, the Atlanta Braves had a horrible first half, got scorching hot in the second half, won a World Series. Washington Nationals did the same thing the year they won it all. So you just never know. Baseball's got a lot more parity now than it ever has. It's very much like the NFL or the NHL or the NBA, and I think that's good. But fans want to think you're all in. In Twins territory, I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there, they're skittish. They're saying, well, the ball club doesn't really care. They don't want to spend any more money because really, I think ultimately it comes down to, do you want to bring on another big contract? You look at Jack Flaherty. Now, I don't know if Detroit would have given him to Minnesota, same division. That may have been out of play.
Right.
But the Dodgers bring him in knowing he's going to be a free agent in the winter. So
no, they don't care.
No, they don't.
Because they can sign him at the end of this, if he has a good, season or last couple of months, whatever it is, they can turn around and say, okay, contract's up. Here, we'll get you we'll bring you back at X amount.
Exactly. But Twins ownership, rumor has it, they've got a few billion too. They could have that same MO. They just choose not to.
By the way, they are a top 10 ownership group as far as billions of dollars in the bank.
Well, no doubt. Well, Carl Pohlad, he was a banker, right? And that was his MO before he bought the Twins from Calvin Griffith. So.
Exactly. So they go out. They do make a small deal. They get this Travis Richards middle relief guy. And that's exactly what we talked about on the radio, too. I said, if they're going to do anything, I'll bet that they just add a middle relief guy, which again, a lot of teams are surviving on their bullpens. Cleveland survived. Their starting rotation has been decimated this year.
And you got to have a bullpen.
And you got to have a bullpen to win.
Definite.
Okay, flip side of this. You talked about the teams that just got in, not necessarily making big deals at the deadline. The Atlanta Braves won it all by making a bunch of deals a couple of years ago. And I think that that's what people look at and say, you know what? Can we make 2 or 3 deals to get us over the hump and so that we can win a championship? Because it worked for the Braves a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they brought in Jorge Soler from San Francisco. They brought in some other people this season. The Braves are still very good. They're going to try to make a run. And they're in the same division with Philadelphia and the New York Mets. So you've got some good teams around them. And I think for the Twins, again, who knows? Maybe they get into the playoffs and go deep. I won't say it's impossible. But did they sell any tickets for the second half of the season with their lack of activity as far as acquiring players? I would say no. They get the Chicago White Sox coming here this weekend. They're not a draw, but they do have the Joe Mauer Hall of Fame stuff on Saturday, and it's a weekend, so they'll probably have decent crowds. But the Twins have had trouble, with the exception of the previous homestand, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and of course the Cheeseheads and the Philly Fanatics helped pad the gate there.
They
right?
did, no doubt.
The Twins are not packing them in. And it's prime time. This is summertime, folks. It's not cold.
Well, and right now, they are on their second lowest attendance, if this stays where it is right now, since 2001 in a non-COVID affected year. Okay, so a couple of those seasons were affected by COVID. But they would have their second lowest attendance since 2001 if it stays at this level the rest of the way.
And they're coming off a season where they actually won a playoff series.
I agree.
Snapped that ridiculous streak. And they had momentum built up. But then what did they do right away in the offseason? They telegraphed their intention to pare the payroll. Look, if you're going to do that, don't say it. Because once you say that, all that goodwill you built up in the postseason goes right down the tube, and people said, same old Twins.
Yeah, well, sure seems like it anyway.
All right, well, stick around. We have a lot more coming up. We're going to talk
Purple
NFL.
Oh,
that's right. It's here. It's back. This is 10K Takes, your Twins ticket.
Get away to Lakeville, Minnesota, where your family will have tons of outdoor fun. Come for the nature and stay for the thrills. Bring the bikes, swimsuits, fishing poles, and walking shoes as Lakeville boasts trails, lakes, and beaches. Plan your itinerary at visitlakeville.org today.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
And you are watching 10,000 Takes, Wally and Eric, and we are in the dog days of summer. I think that's fair to say. It also means the NFL, as you like to call it, Sasquatch, the sport that Bigfoot's everything else, right?
Yeah, there's no stopping the NFL once it gets going. Yeah. Everything is eclipsed by the shield.
It certainly is. And, of course, that means the Minnesota Vikings are in camp, and we are joined now by former Minnesota Viking wide receiver Matthew Hatchette. Matthew, welcome to the show, first of all.
Appreciate it.
Secondly, as you look at what training camp is today, which is now in Eagan, not Mankato, and what training camp was for you 25 years ago, what are the main differences? And yes, it's been 25 years or so.
Wow. You know what? It's a night and day. It's two different worlds and almost dang near two different sports. It's like 25 years ago, literally, we would have two-a-days all week for 5 to 6 weeks at a time, then go into the season. With the new CBA, they don't do 2 padded practices back to back, and they don't do two-a-days back to back. So you'll have our schedule with Monday, after Monday morning, padded, contact, full tackle, full go. Come back in the afternoon, same thing. Tuesday, same thing. You do that all the way till Saturday, and then you have a break on Sunday. Now the schedule is Monday morning be a padded practice, Monday afternoon, shells or no, I think sometimes even no helmets. And then Tuesday they have one practice, and then Wednesday back to a two-a-day. So for your body, in your mind, it's total two different worlds just to get your body conditioned and ready to go for a football season.
Matthew, you played with two Hall of Fame wideouts here in Minnesota, Chris Carter, Randy Moss. You do a podcast with another Hall of Fame wideout, T.O. Terrell Owens. You talk to a lot of young receivers around the NFL, college football. What would you say to Jordan Addison out of USC? You're out there in SoCal now. He's had a couple of big hiccups, road related. What would you say to Jordan Addison?
Put all that stuff to sleep. Again, it's time for football season. Like you said, football takes over everything around the world. And if you're a player playing in the NFL, you have to also understand the landscape. Like, you got to shut everything down as well, right? The whole demeanor of your lifestyle for the season is about sleep, getting your body ready to practice the next day, and then performing on Sundays. And of course, now again, the season's is longer, right? 17 weeks. And of course, in the playoffs and Super Bowl. So you have to do this for the next 6 months, but there's nothing else that's more important. As a player in the NFL, like, all that other stuff is secondary, and you just have to focus on one thing, and that's performing at your job at the highest level. Because obviously, like you guys know, the NFL stands for not for long if you don't do that, right? They will replace you, and the younger, hungrier kids will come along and, of course, take your job. So you have one job, and that's to focus on, your job at hand.
Well, and when you have a DUI hanging over you, and you're caught going 150 miles an hour in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that's year round too, right? I mean, that just can't happen in the off season and say, oh, it's no big deal. I mean, it doesn't matter when it happens. It can't happen while you're being paid millions of dollars to play football, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, we are role models. We're our leaders in the community. And I think that has to play a part in your decision making. And again, if you like to go fast, then go to, one of these racetracks, where NASCAR goes, and I'm sure they'll let you come on there for a day and bring your family and friends and go race for a day. But to do it on local streets where you're putting lives at danger, that's not going to fly. More importantly, it's not going to fly across the NFL if you're a guy that's on the bubble and or not a future Hall of Famer. Like, that's just the world we live in, right? There's somebody, if Justin Jefferson were to do it, there still might not be a police report about it.
Wow.
But unfortunately, if somebody besides him does that, it's going to be an issue, and it's going to have a negative spin on it, regardless of who finds out about the situation. That's just kind of, sports in America, how it rolls.
All right, from the lens of a wide receiver, you've got two new quarterbacks in here, the veteran Sam Darnold. I say he's trying to save his career. He's got a great chance here in Minnesota. And then the wonder kid, J.J. McCarthy, the future. What do you want to see out of those guys? How do you help them get better if you're a receiver in training camp?
Well, sure, if you're a receiver in training camp, again, don't drop anything and know where you're supposed to be at all times. The more you can do, the better for you. Because, again, if you can play inside and outside and know the whole playbook. I was just talking to one of my other mentees in Cincinnati, Trent Irwin, and the reason he sticks is because he could play every single position. So as a receiver, again, if you're not Justin, you have to, number one, you might have to play some type of special teams. Number two, you better know the playbook like the back of your hand. So you can play different positions at different times. When players go down, you don't want another player to go in like, coach, I can play that. I know that position too. I know slot too. I know inside too. So I think that's the biggest thing for a younger receiver. Make sure you know that whole offense.
You already mentioned how training camp is different, and the preseason is shorter. It's down to 3 games. Basically, the starters hardly play at all. And then week 1 looks more like what used to be a preseason game, maybe preseason game 3. How do you get ready in such a short amount of time now without the hitting and without the actual game action? What is your view on that?
Well, I think the smarter veterans, the guys that are playing 6, 7, to 10, 11 years, they're getting ready in the off season. Like, they're getting ready from March till June. And if you're coming into training camp and getting ready just for, football camp, I don't think you're going to have a long career. I think it eventually catches up to you as far as, number one, injury. Number two, just being in shape and being able to perform at your best. Because again, there's not a lot of, I guess, downtime where you can learn the playbook and get better at your craft. Because to me, those are two separate things if you're a player going into camp. Because once you get to training camp, the playbook is the playbook. You're not working on your release if you're a quarterback, or your kick step if you're an offensive tackle, your back pedal if you're a DB. You're not working on those things to get better at that. You're working on just the X's and O's because you have to fit what the system is for that play. So to me, it's like if you're doing that in the off season, you're being smart about it, taking care of your body, getting your rest, and becoming a better athlete, bigger, stronger, faster from March to June, July. Then I think you have a better season, which of course means you have a better career.
All right, Matthew, I thought you had a great take when you talked about, development, young quarterbacks behind veterans. We've seen it in Green Bay with Rodgers and Favre, and Patrick Mahomes obviously sat behind Alex Smith in Kansas City. What about Jordan Love? Are you sold on him now? He was behind Rodgers. He's won that NFL lottery. You got the big contract. Great year last season. Do you think the Packers now have a guy for another 10 to 15 years, greatness at quarterback?
Well, if they do, they know something that none of us other people know in the whole business. That would be amazing if he does go, 15 years, and have an Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre career. Absolutely be amazing. Is it possible? Absolutely. I think he's, top 10 quarterback trending in that direction. Now, does that success also mean Super Bowls, or does it mean Hall of Fame numbers like Aaron Rodgers? Because those are two totally different worlds, right? He's got, 3 or 4 good receivers who all might be they're not considered as your Justin Jeffersons and Devontae Adams of the world. But if he can win with them and have a run game and have a better defense and go win, 2 or 3 Super Bowls more than A-Rod, but not put up A-Rod numbers, do they look at that as a Hall of Fame Green Bay Packer quarterback legend career? I would, I'm sure he'd rather have Super Bowls instead of Aaron Rodgers numbers, but, so I think he has an opportunity to do that. That would be crazy if he played the next 12, 15 years as a Green Bay Packer quarterback and he's lighting it up. But it's definitely possible. Again, he has the tools, and more importantly to me, he has the mindset, because whoever was in his camp or his friends in his ear when he was a rookie, it doesn't seem like the conversation was, hey, you should be starting, get a trade, get out of here, go somewhere and play. Like, he sat behind the starter, A-Rod, learn from the experience, and then when it's your time, you go perform well. I think that's the way to do it. I don't think that you can force the issue, because, like I said, that's a two-edged sword, getting in too early in your career and then going in and throwing 4 interceptions and 1 touchdown in 2 games, and all of a sudden the whole world is on you saying that you don't deserve this spot. So I think his mindset was probably the most impressive thing with this whole process.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate your insight on the Vikings and the NFL. And as you know, we'll be checking in with you again down the road during the season.
All right, there it is. Thanks, guys. Happy camping.
See you, Hatch.
He is Matthew Hatchette, the former Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, with us here on 10,000 Takes. More after this timeout. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Well, they're in full swing in Paris. Several Minnesotans, a lot of U of M attached athletes, a lot of Minnesotans, period. Suni Lee and the women's Olympic team. They win a gold. The women's gymnastics team does. Of course, Team USA, coached by Cheryl Reeve of the Minnesota Lynx. You got Regan Smith, the swimmer from Lakeville. All kinds of good things going on over there for Minnesota. And I find it ironic that our newspaper here in the Twin Cities decides not to send anybody over to cover it, the Star Trip. I was a little surprised by that.
That is a sign of the times we're in as far as the media goes. If you notice, on occasion, the Minneapolis Star Tribune won't have a Twins writer when they're on the road in certain cities. I am a little surprised they didn't go to Paris, but they're crunching numbers. It's an internet age. Everything is instantaneous. You can get it without having boots on the ground. Now, without having your own local person there, you might miss something. That's something that's possible. The NBC affiliate, Care 11, they'd always send somebody, but no. And media outlets, radio, television, newspapers around the nation are slashing budgets. So that's a big reason why. I mean, the New York Times doesn't even have a sports section anymore. They take it from The Athletic.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they outsource it.
They do. They do.
That is amazing. Yeah, and I mean, there are local stories there, and that's why the Star Tribune has always sent somebody to the Olympics. I wonder if they'll send somebody to the Olympics when it's here in Los Angeles in 4 years.
Oh, I would think that's a no-brainer, but again, you still got to pay for a flight. You got 2 to 2.5 weeks of lodging.
True.
In LA, you're gonna need a rental car. I would assume in Paris you'd need a car too. So yeah, they're just saying, you know what? Do we have to have this? Can we get the coverage another way?
Yeah.
And their decision is yes.
I guess. All right. I've got an NFL question for you. You know how much I love to twist back to the NFL, but I'm going to ask you this anyway. So it looks like the NFL is now requiring head coaches to be made available to the broadcast partner at the half and after the game. So every head coach has to be available for sideline interviews. Yeah. And I first read this, I said, I'm trying to get rid of these things. Yeah. Less is more with these sideline reporters and these interviews with coaches that tell you absolutely nothing. But no, the NFL thinks you're going to get more insight. Do you like this? Is there anybody that does?
No, I don't. And, you're talking about Star Tribune, no reporter in Paris, NBC affiliate not sending somebody to the Olympics. You want to slash budget? How about getting rid of sideline reporters?
Thank you.
What do they add to a broadcast? And I've done it before.
Zero.
You've done it. But the fact is, if you're play-by-play people, your broadcaster calling the game and the color analyst, they should have everything. And if there is an injury, somebody from the respective team's public relations department can get them the info on what kind of injury player X suffered. You don't need sideline reporters, and you could save a lot of money if you got rid of them, and nobody would miss them.
Yeah. And I don't need these lame duck questions that you ask these head coaches. So, what'd you discuss in the locker room? So, how did it go in the first half? I mean, it's just, I could do without it. It gives me absolute, and the coaches, I can tell you, they all dislike it. There might be a couple that are a little, more new age, and they'll give you a little zing once in a while. But can you imagine Bill Belichick having to do that concept? No wonder he didn't get hired. Everybody knew that he'd have to talk to the media.
And he's in television now. Maybe they'll send him to a game and put him on the sideline, and he'll grab Kevin O'Connell as he goes up the tunnel after they're down 21-0 at the half. But you're not going to get anything out of these coaches.
No, you rarely do. All right. We've got one more to go, and it's Takes of the Day, your favorite part of the show. Stay with us.
Let your adventure begin in Lakeville, Minnesota. We have over 90 places to grab a bite to eat, and we're close to the Mall of America, Valley Fair, and the Minnesota Zoo, plus hotel packages and great rates. Visit Lakeville. We're serious about fun all year round.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Big shout out to the viewers in the Twin Cities for watching us this week. We'll have takes of the day shortly. We got into a lot this week. Talking to Matthew Hatchette, it reminds me that we'll have counterfeit football in Minneapolis next week.
Oh,
Las Vegas Raiders, Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, get your tickets. They're about $4 each on StubHub
if
now.
you want to go to an NFL game and you can't afford the regular season, then go to the preseason. They'll just about let you in for free.
And you might actually recognize one or two players who are in the game.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins said he told Raheem Morris, the Atlanta Falcons head coach, hey, I want to play a snap or two in preseason, and Raheem said, no, we know what you got.
Unbelievable. All
right, so what's your mood? Are you a cranky Yankee, angry American, happy camper, something else this week?
Yeah. Well, I'm going baseball on you here. Your guy, Rob Manfred, he's at it again. The same guy that gave us a ghost runner at second base to start extra innings. The same guy that gave us the intentional walk. You got to point to first now. We don't have to throw the pitches anymore. We know we save at least 30 seconds a game when we do that, if that. The disengagement, you can only throw over to first base 3 times. And then endless interleague baseball. Thank you so much, Rob Manfred. Well, here it is. Now you're going to have robo-umpires. Now, I know some folks out there say, well, that might not be such a bad thing. Well, wait till that strike zone becomes like the size of a pea. and that ball that just might miss nicking that edge is called a ball, and you're sitting there forever because of all the walks. Aren't you tired of walks and strikeouts right now? There's a ton of them. That's all there is in baseball. Walks, strikeouts, and home runs, and now we're going to have a robo strike zone, taking the human element out of the game. I say, another bad idea by Rob Manfred, coming of age.
Let's check out that mood meter. Oh, yeah, hopping mad. Grumpy Guardian, pinning the needle. MLB brought to you by AI.
By the way, spring training next year and regular season in 2026. That's when he wants to implement this.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's a techno game now.
No, thank you. All right.
All right. Well, my take of the day, I don't often throw out some kudos to your home state of Ohio, but I will today. The Buckeye State.
Let me write this down.
Getting it right. Yeah, take note here, court stenographer. Yes. Ohio lawmakers have a bill out there where they want to ban field turf or AstroTurf or anything plastic when it comes to a playing surface from professional venues. That would be the Reds, the Bengals, the Browns, the Guardians. Some of them already have grass, I know, and the Columbus Crew, Major League Soccer. I think that cover your Ohio pro teams. But what I want to say is good job, because the Bengals just put in a new field turf surface. It's going to have to go if this bill passes that Ohio politicians want to see happen. And here's the deal. I hope this spreads across the nation, because there's really no reason any professional team, and probably even a team like Ohio State, because they're semi-pro.
Oh, they are pro. Who are we kidding?
Should play on field turf. It's not as safe as grass. The players would rather be on grass. And you know what? I have a saying, no rug, no roof. I like it au naturel. So at least it's a step banning potentially field turf in Ohio. And the NFL should do it around the league. Think about these soccer matches we had a while back where teams came to the U.S. and played. If they were playing on a surface that was field turf, they put grass over it. If you can do that for soccer, these NFL teams can do it for the actual teams.
Yeah,
right?
and they should be able to put it in domes too, right?
There's no doubt about it. Rumor has it the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You can put grass in a dome.
Yeah, we shall see. Well, Buckeye State leading the way.
Way to go, Ohio. All right, let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to Rocky, David Weld, Matthew Hatchette, Paul Langfellow. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.